Okay, now do we have sound? I really did set this up on the fly, guys. Okay, I can't really see who we have here, but we're going to try and go with it. I should probably change the background so that I could read it. Actually, what I'll do is look at the chat on my iPad. So you guys are up late? I'm always up late. Let me do this, and I can follow the chat on my iPad, and we can stitch a bit because once again, Karen is not sleepy, and she would happen to be wide awake. Let's see if I can find me. Well, why? There I am. Aha, now I can. It's not late for you, Elizabeth. I should have figured that. Let me. Oh, look, now you're hearing my iPad. Okay, turn that sound off. Now, let's get situated here. It's 1:15 in Australia. And Mirren, you're in Perth, Australia? Oh my goodness. See, this is nice to do them at this time of the night for me because it's daytime in Australia. Okay, so is everything okay? You can see the chat. You can't see me because I'm behind the chat. But let's do this. Let me move myself down here in the corner. There we go. I'll make me little. You don't need to see me. Do you? There we go. Um, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I figured it'd be kind of nice to do these late night ones because I'm awake anyway. So if I'm awake, I might as well turn my thing on. There we go. I may as well make a video and stitch. I mean, seriously. Okay, there it is. Because you all want to help me stitch the sewing woman, don't you? I'm going to do with this the same as well, wait, got to move the chair up here. I'm going to try and do with the sewing woman the same as like I did with Stitcher's Retreat. And when I have a stream that I'm stitching, to always be working on the sewing woman so that you can follow the progress, just like I need my goggles. Yeah, just like we did with Stitcher's Retreat quite some time ago. So, is anybody going to stitch with me? So what's happening? Okay, see, now you get to see my scientific goggles. I could put the light on those. Okay, Okay, that makes that a little hard to read. Okay. Okay. Now, before I go too far, before we hopefully have some conversations going on, I do apologize for Sunday, depending on where you are, afternoon or evening, because uh, we tried so hard, Nicola and I, to get a stream together that all we could stream together and surprise you guys. And well, it just didn't work. It worked earlier in the day. Earlier in the day we tested it, and this way a little bit, and everything worked fine. Her sound was fine. The picture was fine. It was like, okay, this is going to be a go. This is going to be great. And then when it came right down to doing it, her sound just went in the dumper. I don't understand why. Um, because what we had done earlier was exactly how it was set up to do on Sunday afternoon, evening, or whatever it was for wherever you are. And I can't see that. Okay. And I don't know if it was a bandwidth issue. Oh, I got to move my chair in here, folks. Excuse me while I scooch up over my mat. There we go. I don't know if it was an issue with bandwidth, because probably my guess would be probably there are far more people on the internet at that time of day than there are when we tested it in the morning. Because for me, it was only like 8 o'clock in the morning. So, around here, not many people are on the internet. And everything was set up exactly the same way. She came into my software, which was an internet based one. And well, we went live exactly how we did earlier in the day, and it just didn't work. So I am sorry. I think I was as much disappointed or more disappointed than everybody else, because we had this big surprise all planned. And it turned out to be a bust. But the good news is, had I realized it at the time, what I know now is my software that I'm using right now to be live, I can bring in a guest and I can stream to 2 different places, including 2 YouTube channels. So we're working on doing it that way and see if that gives us a better connection, that we can have a successful event the next time. So stay tuned. It will happen. I am working on it, and we'll just have to, we'll coordinate a time when it will work for the both of us again and see what happens. Because I really would like to do more of that. I really would like to um, bring on a guest more often. I have a couple people that I've already talked to about doing it. It's just a matter of perfecting making that live stream. Um, but I think it would be fun to do that. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think it would be wonderful fun. Oh, well, thank you, Gail. It was a good surprise. I mean, we were both very, very, very tickled that we could arrange and do it, and wanted it to be a surprise because I know people on my channel had suggested of having other YouTubers on as a guest, and so I wanted to surprise you all and say, hey, hey, I found somebody who's willing to come on here and put up with my bloopers. So that's what I did. And but then again, how many of you watched that video and sat there? By the way, I did take it down because it's such a waste. Um, but how many of you, while that was going on, sat there and went, "Yep, true to form. Yep, technical difficulties. It is the story of this channel to always have some kind of a technical difficulty." And I'm sure some of you were just shaking your head going, who would expect anything less? Yeah, but it is what it is. It was what it was. And we're still going to work on it and hopefully be able to do it successfully. So have to do some test runs to see. Even though we did a test run, maybe we should have done a couple more, but hindsight's 2020. So I am working on my version. This is the this is the one I charted, the Sewing Woman, and I charted this in Wind Stitch. I found a picture in the public domain, and I put it through Wind Stitch and uh, charted it, and that's what I'm stitching. Almost midnight in Connecticut, first live. I'm wondering why you like to work in the diagonal. Well, let's see. I kind of am not working in the diagonal anymore. However, that being said, there are a lot of good reasons to work in the diagonal. Whether you park or not is totally up to you. Some people do it the way I showed way back when, in the beginning, when I started this channel. And a lot of people have modified it to something that works for them, which is fine, because there are no hard and fast rules. There is, it isn't that you have to do it this way or whatever. It's whatever works for you. But the advantage is the initial thought, I should say, the initial thought was it would prevent you getting column lines. However, it may prevent you from getting vertical column lines. That it does, because you're never ending on the same line like you would if you did a 10 stitch white column and always did just those 10 and never feathered or anything else. So the thought was to go on the diagonal, that line was always moving and you wouldn't get column lines. However, that being said, some people were getting diagonal column lines. That boils down to the fact that it is definitely a tension issue. Absolutely an issue of tension and how you are pulling that thread and how tightly you are pulling that thread that it moves the fabric threads apart, and that's what gives you the line. Okay, but the other nice thing about stitching on the diagonal and stitching the way I did in the beginning, going row by row, or some people like to do the 10 by 10 squares, is that you're filling everything in. And you never have to go back and find those blank stitches. Like here, I'm going to have to find, the more this gets filled in, the harder it's going to be to find some of these stitches, because this is 28 count and this is teeny tiny. That's why I have my scientific goggles, as my daughter calls them. But it's harder to go back then and fill in these vacant spots. So if you're stitching, whether it be in a column, whether it be on the diagonal, and you're going line by line and completing each line as you go, it lessens the stress of the confetti, because we know how we can get a little stressed when we got really high confetti. Your stitches look a whole lot nicer if you're always coming up in a clean hole, which is a hole that has no thread in it, or the thread has only passed through it one time. And you're going down in the holes of the previous row, because that prevents from pulling your thread back out. If you were coming up in your previous row, you could be piercing those threads and then you're pulling it back out, and that's what's giving you some of the bumps that you get sometimes. So if you go up in a clean hole, go down in the dirty holes, you get a much nicer stitch piece. So yeah, there are a lot of advantages to stitching on the diagonal, or stitching row by row, or not, jumping around like. But here's my thing, and I have a love-hate relationship with parking. So if you're gonna do diagonal and you're in a high confetti area, it behooves you to do parking, which is fine, except it drives me a bit crazy. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I am an old school stitcher. When I started, I stitched by color. And that really is where my comfort is. That's really my preferred way to want to stitch, is by color. Now, not color all over the whole piece, but color within an area. So here is the end of my page, right here. It goes down to probably here, but I'm using this stitched area like an island, and I'm gradually working off of it and picking my color according to what spaces need to be filled in yet. Now, if I look at this and I see, oh, okay, this needs to be filled in, but the color that goes here, there is a whole bunch of it in here, I'm apt to not pick that color and look at what other symbols are here, how many stitches are there, and do those first. Because then if I carry my thread, which I will do, this color that has the most stitches is going to cover over those thread carries. So they aren't going to end up being a problem. So I am glad that makes sense for you. You know, and let me see if I can show you. I can show you here. We'll use this. Let me finish this X, but then I can zoom in and show you what I mean about how that not how, why you get lines. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over here and do it, and I can take it out a little bit later, or I can take it out. All right, so this is gonna, let me zoom in more. We go zoom, zoom, zoom. Let me see. Okay, come here. Okay. Okay, you can see where my needle is, right? Okay. There's my, oh, you can't see my pointer. Why am I pointing at it? Well, how dumb is that? It's coming a little bit further yet. Okay. There we go. All right. So I'm going to come this way just a little bit. All right. So this is thread number 10 in this block. All right. So I'm going to do my X. Okay. So there's my first leg. Okay. I'm going to do my second leg. So I'm going to come up in the bottom right. And when I complete that X, I'm going down in the top left. So when I pull this, I'm pulling the thread. I'm pulling the thread, and it will, if it's going to move this fabric thread, it's going to move it to the left. Okay. Now, I'm in this column, this next column, and I'm here at this last stitch. All right. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to come up to cross the X. I did that X backwards. Hold on. Hold on. Let me take it out. Oh, look, I pulled up a thread from somewhere. Where'd that come from? There we go. Okay. My direction is I usually go the lower left to the upper right, and I did it wrong. Okay, so now remember, this top stitch is pulling to the left. Now I'm going to do this last X of this set of 10. And when I come up, I'm coming up in the lower left. I'm going down in the upper right. And when I pull this thread, it's pulling to the right. Okay. Then I'll come up and go to cross the X. And when I go down here, even if I go down to this stitch, depending on how hard I pull my thread, that's just reinforcing that pulling away. So that's why, because this thread is going this way. The bottom leg of this X is going this way. That's making this channel between these threads go this way. Go this way. One side's going this way, one side's going that way, and then you're going to get a line. So the bottom line is it's all about tension. All about tension. I got to take these out now, but that's why you get lines. Now, I hope you could see that, because silly me is being a doof and stitching on. Come on. Stitching on 28 count. So it is a little bit hard to see, but you get the idea, and hopefully it at least explains the concept for you of why that happens. Does that make sense? So that's why it behooves, when people are going to stitch a 10 stitch wide, to jump over into that next column, whether it's a column or a diagonal, to rand. And here's the key word. The key word is, when you work into the next diagonal or the next column, it needs to be random. It needs to not have a pattern. I see a lot of people do what I call a sawtooth, where they go out, they'll go 3 and then back in, and then out 3 and back in, where it looks like little peaks. That's patterned, and you could get lines that just follow that exact pattern. So the trick, well, it's not a trick, but the ideal way is to just randomly put stitches into the next either diagonal or column, so that you're less likely to have a problem with lines if that is done randomly, just willy-nilly down the side. You know, I never even thought about the issue of having lines until I started doing full coverage. Or here of late, the last, what, 10 years, the thought of lines never even occurred to me, because I never stitched like that. I never stitched just within a column or just within a diagonal. That really was foreign to me at the time. I understand why, and it makes a lot of sense to do it that way. I like the fact of being able to, put your work down, stop stitching for the day, and or the evening, and then when you come back to it, you pick it up and you know exactly where you are. You don't have to fuss. Um, but again, you run the risk. I always kind of did what I'm doing here, is the willy-nilliness. Your feathering into the next column is not really random, but it works really well. Well, that's good. I mean, as long as it's working for you, Elizabeth, that's the important thing. You stitch any stitch if it's underneath one already done. Yes, exactly. So you're doing it pretty much the way Gemma Stitches does it. In fact, did you watch her video lately? She changed her technique a little bit. And I thought about giving that a try, but here's my but, my infamous but. I don't want to park. I just don't want to do parking. Yeah. I like to put one thread in and work it until one of two things happens. I run out of thread, or I run out of symbols. I run out of that symbol in the area that I'm working on, and I would have to travel really way too far to find that symbol again. I mean, I will travel. Don't get me wrong. I will carry threads, but I try to be mindful of the distance. Like I'm not going to carry a thread from say here all the way over to here. No, I'm not. I will carry it 10 stitches, but I really won't carry it 20 or 30 or 40 stitches. Well, I hope you do. I hope you do get to it eventually. I do like Gemma's um, uh, stitch with me's. In fact, she just posted her a picture of how far she is on the peacock one that she's stitching. Um, I think she's pretty close to 50%, if I remember right, and it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. She gets a lot done. My trouble is, I guess if I just stayed with one thing and didn't want to do other things, or eyes are getting blurry. Um, yeah, if I didn't want to do other things, if I didn't want to do other pieces, if I didn't record or try and come up with things to record, I probably would get more done. But you know what? It is what it is, and it's not going anywhere. It will be here. It'll get done when it gets done. But, oh my lands, I need to show you the picture my friend Barb sent me. Let me see if I can add it to the screen because it is just beauteous. And oh my God, I think I have to stitch it. um, where I have it saved. You know what? I gotta switch my glasses. I can't see. Oh, that's the only thing with doing these late night ones is my eyes get tired. And then I have a little trouble seeing things. Is it in here? I have to find where maybe it's in here, where I saved it. Oh, that's always the challenge. Where did Karen save something? My files desperately need organized. Desperately. Hang in there. I'll find it. Well, you know what I can do? Let's do this. What does that mean? Okay. Well, well, are you going to open? Well, there it is. Okay. All righty. Let's do this. Okay. Where are we here? All right. Let's put it on here. Let's do display, part of a display capture. Okay. Now, here we go. This this picture is just absolutely gorgeous. All right. Now, select the area. No, wait. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta get rid of this. I gotta cancel. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I think I got too many things open here. Anyway, let's try this. I can just show you part of it. All right, let's cancel it. Okay, now let's do this and try it again. Here we go. Here we go. Display capture. I'm probably driving you people nuts, aren't I? Okay. Okay. Here we go. This is just gorgeous. Look at that. Is that not absolutely stunning? Oh my God, I think I have to. Oh, well, thanks for stopping by, Diamonds. Hello, Lori Clark. How are you tonight? Is that just not drop dead gorgeous? I think I have to try and chart it. No, I know I have to try and chart it. Yeah, yes. Ah, so now you know what's going to happen, don't you? Okay. Who's going to take the first guess? Do you know what's going to happen? um, I really have to control myself as far as charting it, because if I get it into a chart that I like and can live with, do you know what's going to happen? This one will go away and that one will get worked on. It's how Karen rolls. Well, Missy, good morning. It's good night here, but it's good morning for you, I'm sure. So, yeah, as you see, it is already in wind stitch. But I haven't come up with something that I haven't come up with something that I want to truly chart. Now I need to. No, that's not it. Audio, chat. Okay. I need to get this off the screen. There, let's put it over there. Okay, we'll get it out of the way. But yeah, yeah. I've got a ton of things open here. Yeah. If I get it to a point where I really like it, yeah, I'm going to have to start it. And then we all know that this will then suffer because that's what Karen does. See, that's that. That is that little dangling thread that jumps out at me and says, stitch me. No, no, stitch me. No, please stitch me. Then I get so distressed. That's why I don't get anything done. I need to exert some self control and say, okay, I'm going to work on this project until it's finished. Or say, I'm going to work on this project as the main focus, but if I need a break, I can pull out this project. Or I can work on that project maybe a certain day of the week. very difficult for me. I I go for the shiny object. I go for the I go for the shiny thing that dangles in front of me and says, "Ooh, aren't you pretty? My little lovely, aren't you pretty? Don't you want to stitch me instead?" Yeah, it's the story of my life. That's why I end up having to purge every now and again because I start things because aren't they lovely, and I really want to stitch them. But then after I have moved on and maybe moved on several times, I find them again and go, hmm, why did you start that? What did you like about that? Oh, yeah, it's nice, but what made you think you wanted to really stitch that? Because it isn't doing the same thing for me as it did back when I started it. So then it's like, okay. So, yeah. Donna, you're working on Tinder Abbey. Okay. Elizabeth, so many variations of ecru. Yeah. You know, and that is one thing when it comes to confetti. How many times is it like you're changing colors every other stitch, but when you put that next color in your needle, it is just ever so slightly different from the thread that you just stitched. And maybe in the whole chart of 150,000 stitches, there's four. Yeah, there's four. I just had that happen. Yeah, four. Why? Why can't that be combined? Why can't those two colors be combined? Is it really, really going to make that much difference when you can barely see the difference when you place the two threads side by side? And if you're placing two skeins side by side and you can't see a not that there needs to be a big difference, but you can't see very much of a difference, and you would be hard pressed if you had to match up a strand to one of those skeins. Why don't you just why isn't one number just used for all of it? I don't know. I don't know. That drives me a little nutsy cuckoo too. So Elizabeth says what kept her going on that chart was after looking so close at what I called beige soup. I would take a step back and suddenly there was a lovely picture. And you know what? You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. How many times are you stitching away and you're going, why? Why is this here? Why? What am I stitching? And you can't see it until you get up, You walk away for whatever reason, and you come back and you look at it from a distance and you go, oh my God. And it just all jumps right off the fabric at you. Yeah, that's a terrific feeling. Yeah. So, oh, you know what? I'm going to start to yawn. Yeah, I didn't plan on staying on very long, and I can't believe there's this many of you here. 24 people here. My gosh, imagine that. I did want to, someone else asked me, and while I'm on and I'm thinking of it, somebody asked me about how to start a thread from the front on this count. Well, on an even, well, when you're working 1/1. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. So let me just get a different piece of floss. And I'll go in a spot where this one's darker. You can see this better. We don't want that one. That's not dark enough. You won't be able to see it. Okay. The method I have really liked the method I've been using lately. But now I do need a sharper needle. Okay. Pardon me. I think this one's sharper. And it won't really work well with a ballpoint needle. So we'll just say that right up front. Okay, you're going to your weaving club. Oh, have fun, Missy. That sounds like fun. A friend of mine that I used to work with years ago started weaving. She's done some, and she's creating her own, so she's done some really nice things. Okay, this is what I hate. Getting these little itty bitty eyes threaded. There we go, there we go. Oh no, especially when my eyes are getting tired. Is that through? Okay, try it again. Oh, you little stinker. Did that do it? Ah, gotta find my needle threader. That ain't working. Hopefully I have one in here. have all the contraptions. Oh, there's one. Okay. Yeah, these little ones are nice for these tiny hold, these needles that have these tiny, tiny little holes. Okay. Plus, it, like I said, it doesn't help. My eyes are now getting a little tired, and they're when they get tired, they get watery and itchy and a little blurry. So, wow, that was a challenge. So, let's see. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, to start a thread on the front and not have to turn your work over, we're going to do it here. And I'm going to zoom you in again. Real close. Okay. Hopefully that shouldn't be blurred. Yeah, it seems okay. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down in my upper right corner. Wait, I better go up here a little higher so that you can see. Down in the upper right corner. Then I am going to split the threads of that intersection. Okay. So I'm going to come up in the middle of that intersection. And it's a little tricky to do, and it's why you need a sharp needle, and I would recommend you get yourself some chenille needles. Okay. So there we go. Oops, lost it. Gets a little tricky to do. But as close as you can of coming up in the middle somewhere. It doesn't have to be exact, just somewhere. There we go. Somewhere close. Okay. So I'm coming up. Now I'm going down in this channel between the two threads and splitting this horizontal thread. Okay. So what that made is the teeniest, tiniest little tacking stitch. You can barely see it, but it's there. And then I pull that so that you just see the very, very tip of it, of the tail. Then you come up in your bottom left corner like you're normally going to start a stitch. And by this time, the sharp needle is catching on everything. Okay, so you come up in this corner. Okay. And then you just stitch your X as you normally would. Go down in your upper right, and there's your first leg. And it's really not going anywhere. And then by this time, I would have changed back to my regular tapestry needle because this gets too um, A sharp needle just does not work well when you're trying to do cross stitches. But that's how I have been starting here of late. Now, another way that you can start, which might not be as fiddly, is you can, okay, I'm going to switch back to my trusty old needle, or to this needle. This is another way I've done in the past, is go down in my upper right corner, come up. Oh no, wait, you can't see that. Let's go over here. There we go. Down in my upper right corner, come up in the lower left. Okay. Just leave a small tail. Go back down in the upper right corner and try and stay above that tail. All right. And then come up in your corner to complete your X. Now, I should have picked a different thread because this one is the, look, it was the wrong, my intersection crossed the wrong way. So my thread is going to slip underneath the stitches. Okay, how many of you remember the trick to stitching over one so your stitches don't slip? So let's just move over one thread and do that again. Okay, so I'm going to go down in the upper right. I'm going to come up in the lower left. I'm going to go back down in the upper right. Now, take note in that intersection which way the top thread is going, the top fabric thread is going. The top fabric thread is vertical. So, in order for my thread not to slide under and get lost, I want to have it travel on the back. I lost it altogether. I pulled it all out. I want to travel on the back vertically. So I'm going up. I'm going down. I'm coming up in the lower left. I'm going back down in the upper right above my tail. My fabric thread is vertical. So I'm coming up in my lower right. By staying above that tail, I'm hopefully catching it on the back. I didn't necessarily want to catch it on the front. There we go. I'm catching it on the back, so it's not going to pull out. It's not going to slip under because my travel on the back follows the direction of the top fabric thread of my intersection. And then I can just cross it and I'm good. So when you're stitching over one, okay, I'm going to go down in the upper right. I'm going to look, okay, that thread is going vertically. So to cross that X, I'm going to come up in the lower right and cross it. Now I want to do the next stitch. I'm going to come up where I always do. I'm going to go down where I always go down, but I'm going to look at this intersection. So now my fabric thread is horizontally. So I'm going to come up over here in the upper left. and go down in the lower right. So I go to the next one, start the same way. Now my fabric thread is vertical. I'm going to come up here and go down here. So that's how you keep your thread from slipping when you're stitching over one. Little tidbits after dark. Little tidbits. That's what you get stitching after dark. But I think, my friends, we're now at a bit over an hour, and I think I'm going to get tired and maybe be able to sleep. So I want to thank all of you for joining my After Dark stitching session. I didn't get a whole lot of stitches stitched, but that's okay because I passed on some tips, and hopefully that has helped some of you. And with that, I will be doing more of these. I don't know, probably a couple times a week, so stay tuned. Some of them will start a little bit earlier. I doubt that they will be too much. Well, they could be a little later too. You never know. But it'll be sometime after dark. So have a good rest of your night or a wonderful day, depending on where you are. And I will see you all the next time. Thanks so much for joining me, and have a great rest of your week. Good night.